Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry, I got caught in a monsoon over here.
You got caught in
Raining
what?
like crazy, and I could not.
Oh, those were windshield
Rainstorm. I
wipers.
called it a monsoon, but
Okay,
yeah,
well,
and I could not
Debbie
get pulled
guessed
over.
it. She guessed it was windshield wipers. I thought you were using an elliptical.
No, I need to be, but no, sorry. And I forgot. I thought I'd left my earpiece at home, but it was in my pocket. So,
Oh,
oh, yeah, one of those days. Well, have we found out anything new?
what's it called? So, I mean, I have talked to more people, newer people that I hadn't spoken to before. I got bits of new information. I also had been re-reviewing all of the documents that I have related to the Gobble case. And every time I review it, I notice something that I at least didn't notice before. Um,
Right.
but I haven't, given too much time to it since I just came upon it like today during downtime at work, but then I didn't really have time to review it uninterrupted since coming home. So while there are newer things that I noticed that I definitely want to look more into, I would feel like I'm kind of baiting people if I started to discuss any of it. Um,
Right.
but I think that today is just significant because it is the 1 year
I
from the
know.
day that they went missing.
I just want to go back and, I wish we could go back a year and say, eat your mama's chicken livers.
Yeah,
Stay with your mama tonight. Don't go nowhere. Um, Liver and onions is what she had fixed him.
yeah.
And Sandy chicken tenders.
Mhm.
So, I know I can't believe it's been a year. And
How?
we still don't have answers.
Yeah. How is Laureen doing?
I have not seen Lorraine in a while.
Okay,
I hear she's doing pretty good.
good.
Um, that's what I hear, but I haven't seen her in a while. Another friend was going to go visit last week, and then life got in the way. So, um, I just, I don't want to upset her, you know,
Right.
but I would love to go see her and tell her there's, good news. If I get any good news, I will definitely be going by to see her.
Yeah. Well, if I have good news, I'm gonna drive right over there, and so I tell her.
Right, exactly. Um, well, I just wanted to, main reason why I wanted to join tonight was to reiterate, um, that how crappy I think it is of Brandy and Josh. Um, Josh OG, millionaire gamer, you know, to be putting the Gobble family through this. And it might be different if Cindy hadn't listed Kendall separately on the wheel
Right.
as his own person, you know. And if she hadn't left Brandy out. And that really bothers me because that right there should tell them, they shouldn't be doing this to Kendall or Greg's family. And
Right.
I don't care if he done it or not. In my opinion, that's how I feel.
Hmm.
And anything they do get, it's going to be like blood money to me. Um, it's just not right. It's not right, especially, well, it ain't right, period. But we don't have, I do not think Greg Gobble held a gun more 6 inches or more away from his head, nor towards the back of his head.
Mm,
People don't do that when they commit suicide.
right. If anybody is confused by what she is referring to, I had so I had done the styrofoam heads, and I measured. And now in one of the reports it said the entrance wound was above the right temple. That was in the medical examiner report, but then in the autopsy report it said oh gosh,
And
parietal skull,
yeah,
and I just I kept remembering I had read right above the temple, so that's like the region of the skull I was doing this with the styrofoam head, and then I decided to I was like let me just break it apart a bit more, and then when I broke it apart a bit more, I was like, wait a minute, parietal. Is the parietal over here? And so I Googled it, and parietal's back here. So the entrance wound was in the right parietal scalp, which is back here, 5 inches below the top of the head. 11.5 from the to the right of the brow ridge, and 13 centimeters from the anterior line. I might have reversed those last two, but but I had it like over here. It should be, but back here. But that's even more awkward. So, sorry, Kitty, I didn't mean to cut you off.
it sure shouldn't.
Ooh, you're breaking up a bit. We can't really hear you.
That, you know, oh crap. All right, I was going to move. Um, I have to go down here. Is that any better?
Yes.
Is that any better? Okay.
Yes. Yep.
All right. Okay. Sorry. It quit pouring down the rain, so I'm on to my mission, to my next location. So, but yeah, them changing that from a 22 to a 9, and claiming it was a typo. You know, 9's nowhere near the 2 on a keyboard. So
But also
that
that
made
was like the first thing we did when we made this realization was we had it confirmed. We had it confirmed with the medical examiner that regardless of if somebody later tried to claim there was a typo, the wound
right.
measurements do not lie. And so then when they made that change, I was like, holy moly, I am so glad that the people I've been communicating with had the foresight to know to account for that, and they were able to sort of debunk that before it ever came on the table.
Right. Right. Well, I believe, I don't believe in too many coincidences anymore,
Mm-hmm.
and I just believe that it's a spiritual thing working here, that you even come upon this information. And if you hadn't, it may have been changed, and Kendall, the Gobbles never know
Right.
that, that it was changed.
Yeah, because the only reason they even knew about it was because of the Justice for the Gobble page.
Right. Well, and you ended up getting involved because of something else you was working on.
Well, right. Yep,
So,
the doing the FOIA request in the Mica Francis case.
right, right. So, thank God they sent you that report before people got involved and made changes.
And honestly, some people actually suspected that someone in that public record office, like, put it in there, like, intentionally, like, maybe they weren't supposed to, or maybe they were supposed to keep it on the down low, but they, if that was the case, that somebody like accidentally included that in my FOIA request
Right.
or in the
Accidentally,
response. But
quotation, accidentally in quotation marks, maybe.
right. Yeah, I was doing
Right.
like the bunny ears.
Yeah. Okay. I can't see you. I'm driving. So,
Right.
um, like I said, my whole day got switched around earlier. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, I was not planning on being on the road tonight. But, yeah. So, and then, the only explanation is a typo, which is BS. And then you ask, somebody you knew, and they're saying the wound matches a 22, and no 22 was found at the scene,
Right. Yeah.
and
It's
we don't know where the guns was found, and there was only two casings, not three.
yeah. And that's the thing with this is that the information that they are restricting, it could very well be that information that clarified a lot. If we were able to see even just like the pictures of the crime scene of where the shell casings were found, of the guns or the pew pews and where they were located, you know um and not only that, but the entrance wounds, the just the general scene, the location of each of them, if there's anything else around.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what else was there? There was something else too that we
Oh,
talked about.
sorry.
That's
Did I
okay.
cut you off?
No, you did not. I was just well, and why they releasing the information to the Gobble family like they are Cindy's kids? Why is people told they need to talk to Brandy?
Right.
You know, if Brandy can get access to all of Greg's stuff, then Kendall should be able to access Cindy and Greg's stuff. You know,
You'd think.
and he's a police officer with the department. I don't get that. I don't understand um, that at all. So I think somebody needs to go talk to, Iredell County Sheriff, since this is where, they had the investigation originally
Mm-hmm.
and then decided to, um, well, they said since that's where the Miranda or whatever they called it, not Miranda, I'm driving and I can't think good. What they call the alert that they had on
Oh,
Cindy.
Ashanti.
Yeah, because she was in need of her diabetic medicine and thought to be in danger.
Uh-huh.
Um, so anyway, it originated in Davie County, and then they said both of them lived in Davie County. So Iredell County just turned everything over to Davie. But the autopsy and the medical examination was done in Iredell.
Yeah, and actually, it's documented in the autopsy reports at the end. Like the very last sentence on each one of theirs, right before you get to the toxicology pages, it says belongings were like handed over to Davie County investigators.
Right,
I noticed that when I was reading it today.
right.
Ooh,
So I think that's kind of, yeah, I think that's kind of strange too. I mean, I don't think counties normally do that, but
well,
anyway, I mean, to me, it would
that's
have
the
been,
thing is
but so
they
much,
would typically investigate it.
right, right, right. And so much was assumed, I think, right off the bat. And I actually have a friend that was a friend of one of the officers that was on scene. And, my friend knew how close I was to the Gobbles, and he called me, and I was like, please tell him, please, to not assume anything, to investigate everything. And he's like, well, I can't tell him how to do his job. I said, I'm just asking you to tell him not to just, assume this is you know, what they ended up thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So, but anyway, um, yeah, I think somebody should contact them and maybe, because that's probably who took the pictures and they're the ones who put that up. So, I don't know. Maybe it's in the officer's file.
Well, we know they won't take my calls.
Right. At Iredale either.
No, no. Every time I called Iredell, I was told that the sheriff was like not available.
Yeah. Well, somebody needs to do a drop in thing. Just surprise. Can I talk to you for a few minutes?
Well, I
Because from what I understand, Sheriff Campbell is a really nice. I listen to him on the radio sometimes too, the local
uh-huh.
radio. And he seems like a nice guy, genuine. I know he's done a lot of good in Iredale, so hopefully, and he may not be so attached to, you know, um, people here in Davie County.
Right, right. Well, if anybody who lives in Iredell County or has a relationship with Sheriff Campbell wants to, initiate a conversation with him and see, if he'll share any information with you or talk about it, please be my guest. In the meantime, I have been working on kind of an exciting project involving Iredell County, actually. And Iredell. I have been taking a little bit of time, like every couple of days, or like sometimes once a week. Sometimes I skip a week, but I have been slowly compiling a list of all the email addresses of every sheriff's deputy of both Davie counties and Iredell County, of different medical examiners, of different elected officials, DAs, of all like the who's who of Davie and Iredell counties. I have been compiling a list of emails, and I gotta say, I was looking at my list of emails, and even I was a little bit intimidated. I said to myself, like, gee, like I'm almost uncomfortable knowing that I'm like preparing to send an email to all.
Right.
But I'm also like, come on, guys, like, don't make me do this. Like, please, like,
Right.
do the right thing. Show a little bit of transparency. Do what you got to do to restore public trust. and then
Right.
I will no longer feel I have to send an email. Like, part of the reason I'm including all the deputies, all these people, is to prevent them from continuing to cover things up, to continue to hide the truth from everyone, including the people right there. If I'm going
But
to
yeah,
take the annoying step of even needing to send an email, I'm going to do a one and done. I want to make sure everybody knows about it.
right,
So, and I'll tell you, this is like a long list, a
right.
long list. And yeah, it actually, like, not too much makes me feel too uncomfortable, but the thought of sending this email with all these email addresses that I continue to add to when I can, the thought of it literally makes me uncomfortable.
Well, yeah, and the DAs, the magistrates, all them too.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, I met the clerk magistrate when I was in Davie County. Super duper helpful. He came marching down the hall as soon as I saw him talking with somebody in the hallway, and they pointed towards me, and then he came marching down to be like super helpful. Asked me what I was doing there, what I needed. I told him. I also informed him that the very helpful gentleman at the front door told me I could access the records I was looking for in these two offices. He was so helpful. In fact, he let me know that that guy gave me the very wrong information and that I could not access anything from the courthouse. I needed to contact the DA and the registry
Ah,
of deeds, and so I ought to just go ahead and leave and go to the register of deeds office and then contact the DA. And he would let me know if I could access them, but only the DA had access to them. And well, luckily I was feeling lazy as hell that day, so I parked my ass on a bench in the hallway of the courthouse, waited for him to leave, and and then a couple of young ladies came up into that office, and there must have been a miracle that day in Davie County. I'm so glad I was there for it, because magically they were able to get those documents for me.
I'll be down.
So I am familiar with the clerk
Wow.
magistrate.
So it was perfectly fine for you to get him. He was just trying to block you.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that makes no sense.
That's why now, whenever I make a call, whenever I talk to anybody, if they tell me I can't access it, or that's not public information, or that's whatever, I don't believe them.
Um,
I make calls to 3 or 5 or however many I can find other offices to try to get it from them.
right. Yep. Yep. I have done that before.
And
Because it's amazing you get different answers from
yeah.
different people.
And here's the thing, like, I know they're trying to make like annoying. What they don't realize, though, is that sometimes the pursuit is fun. When somebody is trying to prevent you from accessing something,
Right.
it makes it that much more worth it, or that much more like something you're willing to do, because you know how badly they don't want you to have it.
Yeah, and why? Why?
And Sarah said in the comments, if there wasn't anything to hide, they wouldn't mind you seeing them. Sarah, I feel the exact same way.
Exactly.
Sarah also said the clerk magistrate sounds about as helpful as a hemorrhoid. Yeah, Sarah, that is spot on.
That is so wrong.
Um,
And it just makes us, want to know why and more. And, you know, um, let us just, if we need to face something, then make us face it. And so people can move on. you know,
Right.
but it don't look that way. It looks more like a cover up.
Exactly. And I almost get the feeling that that they are trying to cover up their cover up by almost painting me as like, oh, that obnoxious northern girl.
Right.
Obviously, you've never been to the north to the sheriff there, because if you've been to the north, you know they're all like me. Okay,
Right.
I'm not unique here. Actually, I'm one of the quieter ones, believe it or not.
You are.
So
You're a lot less obnoxious than a lot of them I have met.
thank
So
you.
you're welcome.
But I almost feel like, you know, like the sheriff is going to, or either the sheriff or he's going to have his captain, because we know the sheriff likes to delegate to those closest to him that he trusts to kind of help him sell narratives, so that he's not the only one kind of pushing him. So I almost feel like either the sheriff or he's going to have the captain kind of like make me a scapegoat in things of, you know, well, how could we have done a thorough investigation with this northern girl poking around and giving us a hard time and yada, yada, yada. I could see that happening, even though I didn't get involved until, let's see, they closed it
October,
in
November, or
June.
something.
I got involved in October. So that would be 4 to 5 months after everything. But
And what investigation? What
well,
investigation? I mean,
exactly. There was absolutely none.
no.
But just like the whole, you know, well, we had to issue an Ashanti alert because, you know, Cindy was a severe diabetic
Right.
with a once weekly injectable.
Right. Well, it wasn't ingestible. It was injection.
Yeah, injectable. Yeah. Do I have a
Yeah.
lisp? I
Yeah.
may
Okay.
have a lisp. It might be too much spit in my mouth. But
Okay.
I intended to say inject.
Well, I'm not gonna say anything about anybody's voice or you know, their accent or anything. You know, listen to my harsh voice. I have vocal cord issues, so raspy. But anyway,
Well, I have a speech impediment, so I actually, it might actually sound like I say ingestible
yeah,
when I'm
that's what I
intending to
thought.
say injectable.
Right, right. That's what I thought you had said. Yeah. Um. So I just, I'm praying that somebody will at least reach Josh. And you know, I think Brandy's worth. You know, she's past reaching. Um. But Josh, I mean, Brandy claims, you know, that, and we believe Cindy was a good, passionate woman, you know, so I know she wouldn't want them to do this to the Gobble family.
Right.
So, and I mean, you know, from what I understand, I mean, you know, I know a lot, they might say, well, it ain't about the money. It ain't about the money. Okay, well, then what's it going to do? It's not going to hurt Greg. Greg and Cindy are in heaven. You know, it's not going to hurt them. So who are you hurting?
Right, right. And if that's the case,
You know, are you going? It's not going to make you feel better, or is it the money and it is going to make you feel better? You
and
know,
that's the thing, is that, you know, while both of them are like, you know, there's one side of the argument that both of them do okay financially, but then there's the other side of both of them were struggling.
yeah. See, I don't know. All I know is what I read, and you know, he got that contract 3 or 4 years ago, and he was like, you know, oh, you know, this means so much to me. And he said to whoever he was, interviewing him, said, I support my mom and my family, so this really means so much to me. And
And
I'm
he had also posted a video of him. So he had given his grandfather, Cindy's father, an envelope and stood back as his grandparents opened it. And, it was a letter basically saying, um, it's been my goal my whole life. I've always told you that someday I'm going to take care of you, and this letter is to inform you that I can finally do that, and you don't have to worry about your monthly expenses anymore. I'm going to be taking care of them. And then his grandparents started crying. He started crying. There was a lot of hugs. But 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 then I thought I had heard something about a lawsuit or something that he was needing to pay. And that maybe he had stopped being as financially helpful to even his mom as he had been.
Yeah, that's what I heard. He was sending her a check every month, and he had to stop that after something about him not um, being forthcoming with the people who watch him. I guess they send money to watch him play
Mhm.
games, or I don't know how all that works, but that's what I'd heard. That he
Right.
had told her he was going to have to cut them checks off. So I don't know if they ever started or not.
Right.
But Cindy got a lot of money from her second husband,
Stephen Beaver.
um,
With
unaliving himself.
sale of her share of the trucking company, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she sold that. But from what I understand, there was a good bit of life insurance too there.
Right. And because it was ruled an accident, even though it was anything but an accident, she would have gotten.
Mm,
It's
right.
so bizarre to me.
Because he lived, probably too, he lived after, he run into the truck. He lived for a couple of
Right.
days or something.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. And for the people listening right now and viewing this live, um, in case you were not aware of this, so Cindy worked at a dog groomer, and Greg had brought a dog in to get groomed, and then that's how they kind of like ran into each other again. And after everything kind of went down with Cindy's second husband, Stephen Beaver, and he tried to, he attempted, again, this might be a made up word, but it also might be the right word, familicide. Um, after that had happened, Brandy actually reached out to Greg, called him, and asked if her mother could stay with him for a few days.
Hide her, hide her out.
Yeah, when Steve was in the hospital, I think that like maybe they didn't know, like maybe they weren't entirely sure like what condition he was in. Maybe they thought that he was like Michael Myers in the Halloween movies, and he was just going to get up and go on a rampage, like just constantly pursuing Cindy.
Right. Yeah.
Because
So,
that's what it reminds me of. It reminds me of like a Halloween movie, and like Jamie Lee Curtis, being like oh my god, like get
yeah, yeah.
get all the
Hide my
children
mama.
away from this incapacitated person, like because they're anticipating them coming back from the dead and continuing the rampage before they even move a muscle.
And, well, Josh, he made a video about when his dad died, and he was saying that his mom um, was staying somewhere else. And he couldn't go where she was staying. So, for whatever reason, I mean, he was like 17 years old then, but he couldn't go where she was um, staying at. And she had come by to get his laundry or something that day. It's a crazy. You just have to hear the video. You can look it up. Gosh,
I know I had listened to it, and what was I just gonna ask? Where was she staying that time? Because I know that before I thought that she was staying with Brandy, but then one of I think it was one of Greg's cousins, corrected me and told me that she only stayed at the camper behind Brandy's trailer when she had left Greg for that period. But when she had left Stephen Beaver, she was staying somewhere else. But do you know where she was staying?
no, no, don't know where or who. I have no idea. I don't know.
Okay.
Somewhere where, her son said he couldn't go, and the way he talked, she had been gone for a little while. They were separated and gonna get a divorce, so, I don't know. And I don't know why she couldn't go back to where she had been after Steve got hurt or, unalived himself, basically, is what he did. But, um, you know, unless it was somebody who decided they didn't want to have nothing else to do with the situation. It had gotten too real. Are you there or did I
Yeah,
lose you?
sorry. So
Okay.
I muted my thing, and I am doing an effect right now. So if you do look at the screen,
Mm-hmm.
I did not turn into a goat. I am doing the effect of a goat right now because I'm doing something that TikTok will restrict me if it notices that I'm doing.
Oh, okay.
And I'm muting it because I have in my living room I have like this like big like turbo fan up the window to carry any smoke,
Right.
so that people upstairs don't complain. So I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. I didn't know if I lost you or not. So, anyway, um, I'm just praying. I'm praying for Josh because I think, like I said, Brandy is beyond. She, from what I understand, from what I've heard, she was always getting money from her mom or wanting money from her mom. All the way up to the point of stealing a check and forging it um, behind her mom's back, which, Greg discovered, or Greg and Cindy both discovered, and Greg was told she was going to pay her mama back. And, Brandy didn't like that. So, uh,
Everything I hear about
yeah,
her has something to do with a conflict, an argument of some kind, and usually revolving around money.
right. So, and she put her daughter up, to calling Cindy. From what I understand, even in preschool, asking her for $50. And, you know, um, from what I understood, they were like, why in the world? Well, Greg's mom was like, why would a preschooler need $50 all the time? You know, so, and it's true. I mean, what is up with that? We were lucky, to get 50 cents. I mean, $5, but
Right.
$50, you
Right.
know,
So that is a high amount for a youngster to be asking for.
right. So I just, sooner or later, Brandy's going to have to realize that, or I think, and I think she probably already has, but she'd never admit it, that she caused a lot of problems purposely in between Greg and Cindy and didn't want them together,
It
didn't want
sounds
them
like
to
it's
get
more
married.
far-reaching than that. I mean, and, it sounds like she has caused problems for even a lot of people in town. when she was unhappy about somebody, she would start spreading lies about them and turning people against them. And then, everything was Steven Beaver and then Greg and now Greg's son, and still trying to label Greg as the perpetrator here.
Right. Well, that fits, the narrative she's wanting everybody to believe, and that way she can, like, get Kendall wrote out of Cindy's will, and try to take everything that Greg, his dad, had worked for the Gobble family. That's what I consider. It's blood money. And
I
that,
I could see her looking at it as if she deserves it because she had to put up with Greg and Kendall for the years that she did.
yeah.
I don't know why, but that's just how I imagine her
I
mind.
don't think that they were doing anything intentionally to bother her, other than they had her mother's attention.
Right? They
That
simply existed.
obviously,
Yeah.
yeah, obviously she didn't have. I mean, Cindy, took her to her grandparents on her father's side and let them raise her because she said she was manipulating and evil, and she couldn't handle her. She couldn't handle it, the situation. And that was Cindy's words, manipulating and evil. Now, when your mama says you're manipulating and evil, chances are you are.
Right. Now, I'd love to get my hands on even like Cindy's diary or something. I'm sure all of it's spelled out, and if she wrote anything anywhere.
Right, right. So, I seen something in one of the papers that you'd put up about them uh, from the attorney, and they were saying Cindy and Brandy were like best friends. But somewhere in there, if I'm not mistaken, it said they would let the jury decide. And I just, I don't think any jury that knows all facts and knows that Cindy included Kendall, a grown man that she considered her son, in her will. I don't think they're gonna. And I mean, Kendall's not responsible for whatever happened, even if Greg had done it.
Right.
He was no part of that. He is just as hurt over Cindy's death as they are.
Right. And that's also why I just thought it was so messed up that they wouldn't allow him or actually any of Greg's family to attend her services.
Right. Yeah, that was, yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's crazy.
It is. It's just spiteful. Brandy's on there talking about God and her going through this journey and all that, and uh, then actions speak louder than words. Her actions are of a bitter person.
Right.
So,
What I wanted to ask you, what is happening in the area? Like, are people still talking about this? Have you heard anybody talk about the 1 year? I mean, coming up other than like me?
well, it's been on my mind all week, and another friend of mine, also, which was a good friend of Greg's, and um, she actually ran into somebody a couple days ago, and he had no idea about your site. So people need to let people know more about it so that other people can go on and see this evidence. You know,
Right.
um, just think about all the conspiracy theories that's been happening in our country the past 8, 10 years, and now they're proven. Now they're getting proven to be true.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, if anybody looks at it with an open mind, something is not right. Something is not, you know,
Yeah. In the
and,
comments,
especially, I don't know if we mentioned it a while ago, but you had a specialist look at the autopsy report too, and
yeah,
he agreed that the gunshot wound was from less than a 9 millimeter, probably a 22,
right. Yeah,
which was not found. And,
yep,
it wasn't done at point blank range, and majority of suicides are point blank range.
yep.
Um,
And they're usually in an upward trajectory, and this was in a downward trajectory.
right.
Um, what's it called? Now, somebody in a comment asked, how does this sheriff remain in office? Do you have, I mean, I know that, we've speculated before, about corruption, about, utilizing the people that he trusts, and them also being high up in the sheriff's department, and I guess corruption being a bit more like widespread, and traveling over to, I mean, probably the courthouse, probably, register of deeds, probably medical examiner's office and beyond. But what what do you think, or what is the understanding you have as to how this is happening? How is the sheriff in office still?
I don't know. I don't actually live in Davie County. You would need to talk to somebody else about that.
Okay.
I don't live in Davie. Um, from what I hear from people who do, there's a clique there. And if you ain't part of the clique, or the who's who, then, um, it don't matter what you say.
So chances are Brandy is part of this clique.
She's part of something, evidently.
Well, like
Um,
her or her husband, like she's closely connected to somebody who is the who's who.
she must be, you know.
Well, I mean, the
I know,
sheriff's department, the sheriff takes his orders from Brandy Dry, so
right. Um, I mean, I had run into one of the guys that works with her husband right after. It was just a few weeks after this, and he said there was tension in between the paramedics, EMT, and the sheriff's department. And I said, why? And it's not Kendall. And he said, no, it's Brandy. And, she's married to my boss. And I'm like, but, she shouldn't have anything to do with problems in between, the paramedics and the sheriff's department.
right.
But I don't know. I don't know. Evidently, her grandparents didn't whip her butt when she needed it. She obviously was not disciplined.
Right, right.
So, um, and evidently, she wears the pants in her house.
So in the comments, Joanne wrote the money symbol.
Right.
So, and seems like that's what everything kind of keeps coming back to, is money.
Right. Well, what else do they plan to get? I mean, what else is this about? Greg's gone. Cindy's gone.
Which
You
is
know.
funny though too, because then the people who were bringing negativity onto the Just for the Gobble page had been accusing me of trying to,
Yeah.
what was the word they they had used. They accused me of being a grifter. I had to Google that word, and it basically meant, conning people out of money. And I, I mean, all I could think, I was just dumbfounded because I was just like, but wouldn't I need to be receiving money to
Right.
conning people out of money?
Right. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Most scripters do. That's
so
what it's all about. Yeah.
and from what I can
Meanwhile,
tell, and all the stuff we're talking about, I'm probably the one who has the least amount of money.
right. 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 Well, yeah. And I mean, you're spending money. Your time is money. You've made I don't know how many trips. And you ain't nobody gave you a dime.
Right.
So yeah. I mean, somebody had mentioned a few weeks back something about the Gobbles hiring you or something, and I'm like, no,
Yeah.
no,
And
they
this
you
this
know they
this
had
is
no
why
idea. They
no one
had us
hired me. No one hired
right.
me. I
They had no idea, what was going on. I didn't know you until you stumbled across that information looking at a different case,
hmm
which I think was a God thing.
hmm Ooh, you
That's
got
what I
muted
think.
there.
My timer was going off,
Oh.
so I had to shut it up. Reminded me to do something. I think I've already done it.
It's actually
So,
funny because I started when I got home from work tonight, I like threw something in the oven real quick, and then went about trying to get all the other stuff done before going live. And then I sat down and I was like, I wonder how much time is left with this in the oven, and then I realized I never set the timer. So
yeah,
from there, it was kind of a guessing game of like, when will this be done? Or
right.
is it already done? We'll find out.
What's that mean? Somebody said number two just got the number two gifter badge.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
I guess that's something with you.
from somebody
Okay,
like throwing down a rose or something.
all right. I don't know what the "you're too young for that" means.
Oh, forgetting to set the timer.
Oh, yeah, it only gets worse.
Yep, yep. So I'm in for a wild ride of a future. Because I am pretty young, and to already be this forgetful and
Well, you got some other stuff going on. I mean, life happens.
yeah.
So that's all I really wanted to say was shame on Brandy and Josh for putting the Gobble family through this, and uh, shame on Brandy for everything she done manipulating her mom
hmm
and causing problems in their marriage purposely. And shame on sheriff's department for not really investigating,
Right, right.
and our Dale County medical examiner and whoever done the autopsy. Um, you know, for not rather they made a mistake. It wasn't no damn typo. I'll never believe that.
Right.
Um, you know, so
And hopefully they feel the impact of certain actions I have taken that guess I'm not going to get like too specific about, but um, when kind of all of this had come out about, Brandy's Facebook post, and then the change, what I consider a fraudulent alteration of the medical examiner report, um, there were certain laws that were broken, regulations that were violated So in response to that, I took certain actions, and I feel like enough time has passed that, I mean, I'm like really hoping they feel the impact of the actions I've taken. And I guess to in like closing, uh, Joanne Owing said, "I've told several people about this. Hopefully, it will help." Thank you, Joanne, for doing that.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
and that actually ties into what I would like to say, I guess, in closing this, is that, you know, it has been a year now. It has been a year, and the Justice for the Gobble page has been up since early February of 2025. It still has not probably gotten the attention it should have. There are people who still don't know about this. Oh, and Joanne Owings also said she knew Greg and she doesn't think he did this. Joanne,
Right.
you have a lot of friends who think alike with you,
Right.
because, you know, everyone I've spoken to have all said the exact same thing. There's no way Greg could have done this. There's no way he would have. He wasn't the type. And so I guess what I'd like to say is, everybody who's watching right now, please go to the Justice for the Gobbles FB page and hit the follow button. And then on the far right, you might see like three dots or more options or something. Click on that and click on the share button. Share this to your page. Anytime you are out and about and, you know, you run into somebody and you start chit-chatting, mention this. Mention Justice for the Gobbles. We need to spread this. We need to spread this like a wildfire.
I agree.
And I don't, I know that there have been like a lot of wildfires, like in North and South Carolina, and like, so it feels weird to even have that as the example, but
Yeah.
wildfires spread pretty fast, and it feels appropriate, because I like, this needs to spread. I mean, I'm spreading it, you know, like in my state. You know, I have people reaching out to me from Massachusetts, like wanting to know if there's any updates in the Gobble case. And then, you know, meanwhile, I go into a different FB pages involving people from North Carolina, and they know nothing about it. So please, please, please help spread the word. Help share the page. Help share the videos, because that's how we're going to get the information out there to people.
And if it does go to court, show up. Anybody who can, show up in that courtroom and sit behind the gobbles and
Yes,
pray for their attorney
and make
to.
signs, Justice for the Gobbles. You know, if any of you have been watching the news or have heard anything about the Karen Reed case going on, the only reason that has gotten the attention it has is because an online journalist, who goes by the handle Turtle Boy. His real name is Aiden Carney, but Aiden Carney uncovered all the discrepancies, and he started doing video lives about it. People, as they were hearing about the discrepancies of the all the things that he was uncovering, they were outraged. And then that's what happened. People started showing up to these hearings holding up signs, and then they started getting merch made. People were wearing free Karen Reed shirts, sweatshirts, holding up signs, and that's how word about it spread.
Right. Yep.
And I really want to see the same thing happen for Justice for the Gobbles. And I mean, you know, the drive from where I am to North Carolina is not an easy drive. And with working full time, I mean, I cannot even imagine trying to get out there. Depending on how long any trial did last, but if anything like that does happen, rest assured, like, I am going to try to get out there,
Right.
but it would be so great if
Yeah, I plan to be there every day if it goes that far. I hope it don't. I hope, you know, God
yeah,
reaches them and, you know, y'all get more information because I don't know how they can go through with that with, you know, so there's way too much doubt, you
right,
know, reasonable doubt. There's too much
yeah, yeah.
for them to do that.
And I'm glad to know that you're planning to be out there holding up a sign, because it lets me know that if I am able to get down there to hold up a sign, that I won't be the only sign.
Right, right, right. Yeah, well, I plan on being there in the courtroom if I can get it. You know, they shouldn't. It's supposed to be open court. You know, they started closing some courts during COVID, but really, that's against our Constitution. And they were, um, especially if it's not federal, you know, but they were a big part of this community. So many people knew both of them. And, you know, we have the right to know what evidence they do have
Right.
and, you know, what evidence they don't. And, you know, I ain't above slipping the attorney note saying, hey, you need to ask them about this too. I mean, you know, if something, um, well, I point out some stuff that you thought was good, you know, and that's what people need to do is bring that to their attention, you know,
Yeah.
because if we're thinking it, then you know, probably one of the jury's thinking it.
Right. Right. Yeah. So, I mean, definitely, if you find out anything about a court date being set, you be sure to let me know so that I can plan to be down there. Um, and guy, everyone watching, please share this. Please help us spread the word. Um, because we're gonna need all the people there we can get. And I would love to be able to sit in that courtroom each and every day and report back to
Yep.
everyone able to be there what's going on in that courtroom, because I have a feeling, just based on the corruption that I've seen so far, it's got to be like a punch in the face in that courtroom. Um, so
Yeah.
I have a feeling those things are going to be like very, very noticeable. But yeah, and it is getting late, approaching my new bedtime. So, Kitty, thank you so much for joining and having this discussion tonight.
Well, you're very welcome. Thank you for doing it.
Yeah, and what's it called? Everybody, be sure to I posted this both on my TikTok and on my YT page. I posted a video of the events that occurred on Wednesday, May 29th, 2024. Please be sure to check that out tomorrow. I'm going to be posting a video of the events that occurred on Thursday, May 30th, 2024. And on Saturday, I'm going to be posting a video of the events that occurred on May 31st, 2024. So please keep an eye out. Be sure to watch that and hit the like button. And yeah, hopefully, I'm able to do another live. If we get more information, Kitty, I'll definitely reach out, and I'm hoping that if more people are interested in talking about their experiences with the Gobbles, maybe one of these nights we could even have like a full panel of people who want to talk about their different experiences, to see what is being supported by other people's experiences.
Right. Oh yeah. Anything that they might have heard from Brandy and Josh about this.
Oh
You know,
yeah.
I mean, you know,
Yeah.
um,
Different people, if they have family members who were involved with the sheriff's department, I mean, they might have insights that none of us have.
mhm, right, right experiences and stuff that might not have been fair.
Mm. Yeah.
So,
So, all right. Well, thank you again so much for coming up on panel, Kitty, and thank you everyone so much for joining and viewing. I'm going to probably download this live to like re-upload to both TikTok and YT. I'll only be able to upload it to TikTok if it's under an hour, which I think it's over, but I'll probably cut out the time I was on before Kitty joined. But I'm gonna try to have that uploaded by the end of the day tomorrow. So if you missed any of this, be sure to check it out.
okay. Love you, girl. Take care.
Alrighty, bye. Good night, everyone. Post your thoughts in the comments. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching.